Our opening match is Brian Cage and our friend Kenny Olivier returning to the ring in AEW. Brian, is this a lesson in context and venue? When, Brian Cage comes out to the ring, fine, good. I still think he's a lost cause because he don't get this mentally. He looks like $1 million. He can do all this shit, but he just does too much of it, etc. But when Kenny comes out with the ridiculously overdramatic entrance, and at least they cut the running gag where Justin Roberts would give him the, allocates, as Luger would say, in that whole mouthy thing. But he's got pyro and lighting and the fucking screen, and Justin Roberts herniates himself to announce him. If he was a guy that was over currently in the WWE, in the venues they're running, with the production they have, something like that would not look out of place. But does it look ridiculous when they're coming out, as I said, to what looks like in some angles a glorified pole barn? If you deserve all this shit, what the fuck are you doing here? Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. I mean, I'm not going to nitpick it that much just because it was his return match. Obviously, he was the most over guy in the entire show, and they missed him. It's interesting that, like Moxley, they've changed his music. And with Omega, I don't think it's helped him. Like, he used to have music that kind of got you pumped into it. It's different now, and it's not working. But again, that's a minor thing. I've noticed it the last few times. The people were happy to see Kenny, and they got classic Kenny.
Well, it certainly was. And that's as dramatic as the entrance is. It can't come to the physical drama that our friendly neighborhood Harpo Marx lookalike winner, goes into when he gesticulates and finger points and gasps for air. But, I mean, this was, the atmosphere of the crowd was you can hear individual people expressing emotions right in between the moves. It's then they're sitting there and a random fuck Don Callis chant broke out. I think that's what they were saying. In the first couple minutes, Kenny tried to do a thing where he fucking jumped up, turned around, pick a bale of cotton, jumped up and flipped over Cage off of Cage's shoulders onto his feet, but he over-rotated and face planted in the goddamn mat and busted his own head open. Which it wasn't a cut, it was a mat burn that trickled blood and had kind of a bloody spot. It wasn't a stitches or anything, but he just face planted, boom. And I don't they like these kind of matches, but I saw the same thing as they usually do, and he got heat on Kenny and they fought on the ramp, and it's every Japanese video game match and the finger pointing. And then again, at one point, Cage, I had to go back a couple of times and just see how obvious this was. Cage climbed up on the turnbuckles while Kenny was on the apron. But Kenny was next to him. He wasn't trying in any way to assault Kenny. He just got his feet on a second rope and leaned over the top turnbuckle and held onto the fucking post and just bent over like that. And then Kenny, standing right next to him, slaps him about 15 times in the head like he's trying to stun him. And my Aunt Lola used to shoot flies harder. And then Kenny jumps from the apron to the top rope and flips over and power bombs Cage off the top rope. Where that's what position Cage has been in for the previous 15, 20 seconds. And I'm like, when they watch this back, do they not see how rotten and stupid and phony that looks? Does nobody point it out to them? Hey, Dumb shit. Why did you put yourself in that position when the guy that you're fighting is a foot and a half to the left of you? And then Kenny ran and missed a knee lift on a stationary target. He hit Cage in the arm, and Sockface had to, well, it was a glancing blow.
At first he said direct hit, I think.
Well, no,
and then when the replay showed that he hit his shoulder, then they had to say, oh, it hit his cheek. No, it didn't.
No, you know what? I think at first he said, oh, a direct hit, and then he realized, and somebody else said a glancing blow, and then they fucking compromised in the middle. I don't know. But, and then at one point, Kenny points to the ropes, and he points to the sky, and he hits the ropes, and he runs right past Cage. He's trying to do like a duck and roll up from behind or whatever, but he just ran right past him. And Cage picks him up. He tries to drop behind. He went sideways. They went back and forth, and Kenny hit a big knee lift that looked good. And then Cage is on his knees in the ropes, and he hits another knee lift. It looks like shit because there's no place for the guy to take a bump. And then instead of doing anything else to like, or just covering the fucking guy, he leaned Cage over the ropes and got in between his legs. Maybe I'm not like it sounds. Let me back up. He picks Cage up, who's supposed to be halfway stunned into incoherency, and leans him over the top rope, and Cage is having to lay there while he leans his head, Kenny does, in between Cage's legs, and then Cage can hold on to the top rope and help Kenny pick him up for his fucking finish, the one-winged angel or the one-winged fairy. I forget which it is. Lazy cover 1, 2, 3.
That's the only finish in AEW they've ever put over strong. If you really think about it, who else has a finisher? I guess Moxley choking people to death. Who else has a finisher that no one kicks out of? It's Omega. That's the only one. I dare one of these guys to start doing that move in the middle of a match and kicking out of it like you do with everyone else's finishes.
There you go. Except it looks a little dodgy to me on one spinal column. I don't know if I would be trusting this guy or anybody else to fucking do that. But I was always taught never take a bump completely folded up because you've got nowhere to fucking absorb the shock. And that's exactly what these knuckleheads do.
Real quick before you get to the post-match stuff. So obviously, your feelings aside, any thoughts I have to the negative aside, Kenny Omega, maybe the most popular in-house guy they have in AEW with the fans still.
Well, what do you mean in-house now?
I mean, the most popular guy in the company, that when he makes an appearance, Will Ospreay's popular, but Omega, it's a different reaction.
Well, because he's been gone for a fucking year. Well, let him hang around for about 4 months.
Well, that leads into my question. If you know he's coming back, and I'm going to assume let's see what kind of schedule he works. If you don't think he's going to be wrestling that often, do you have this match on Dynamite? Or do you save a Kenny Omega match where people could pay for it? Because he's proven, he's one of the guys you could say has proven in the past he's been a pay-per-view draw for them. So if you have that, you have a match here. It was a pretty long match, more competitive than it probably should be for a Kenny Omega return match.
Well, of course.
But why would you give that away? Should you hold that kind of match back for pay-per-view?
Well, there could be the thought that, well, then if he appears regularly to promote the match that we're holding back for pay-per-view, then he's got to talk. And even I will admit that of two things, to see Kenny Omega talk or to see Kenny Omega fucking wrestle, I'd probably rather see him wrestle, which shows how much I want to see him talk. But it's not like that he's proven that he can talk to people into the building. He's the guy in the ring. But I certainly would have either book him against somebody, not one of these comedy job guys either, but a competent, middle-level fucking predominantly heel that he could have had a 6 or 7 minute match with just as like a tune-up thing. He really wants to prove he's going to start at the beginning of whatever, and then do your fucking angle afterwards. Or maybe not even do your angle afterwards. Maybe do that once or twice or 3 times on TV and then do your angle afterwards. And then let him have a competitive match on pay-per-view that people need to pay to see. But they've already wasted the gut. Everybody's hitting him in the stomach now. They've already done that and haven't even got him advertised in a fucking main event style match. So there's your angle, and you've done it. Old Kyle has punched him. Somebody else fucking punched him the other day, or vice versa. Well, no, it was in this Afterbirth. This is where they did the angle already.
And I'll just say this before you go to the angle, a couple things real quick. Don Callis is like a parody of a manager. And I don't know how anyone would ever take him seriously. And that's the problem. If you're going to have managers, you have to have good ones, serious ones. Not that they can't be funny like you were, but people took you seriously. Don Callis, it's like a guy performing.
He's playing at it.
Playing a manager. He's performing as a manager. That's one thing. Second thing is his stable sucks and none of them know how to do a beatdown. If you watch, and it wasn't even just here. Later on with Pac, I noticed it too. No one knows how to just stomp a guy on the mat. And then when Lance Archer started throwing shots at him on the mat, he couldn't do that either.
I know. I don't know what has gone on. I don't know what. Again, you need snap in your kicks and you need to make a little fucking noise with them. And not kicking the guy, but kicking the mat, but making noise with your movement, putting oomph into it with the punches. These weasels need to open up and you need to know how to throw a fucking punch. It takes 2 to fucking tango. And you need to punch people in a believable fashion. And just show some aggression and some body language and some urgency when you're trying to get heat. But Archer and Don came in on Kenny. I wrote phony kicks and weak punches. And then old Kyle came in and hit the big gut punch, which they already have done in an angle here not long ago, right? When he first came back.
He should have never cut his hair. I'm sorry.
Oh, boy. And then, but here then comes Ospreay, and he hits the ring, and he and Kyle are going to have the 1-2, 1-2, and he's going to fucking dump Kyle. And they trade punches that are fake because they don't change their facial expressions. They don't register them with their body language. They throw them, I hit, you hit, I hit, you hit, next to or in the vicinity of the guy's fucking head and face, but it doesn't even change their expression because they're going through the motion of doing this. And that's why it looks like shit. And then Ospreay dumped Kyle and staggered Archer. And by that point, Kenny, whose surgically repaired gut just took the big punch from Kyle, who must fucking hit like my Aunt Lola. Kenny was already up and knee lifted him. And then Ospreay hit that shitty elbow that he, for whatever reason, he uses as his finish, that this time it was his armpit that hit Archer in the back of the head. And then Kenny started kind of arguing and confronting and being as aggressive as he usually as normally ever is verbally with Ospreay, who's the guy that helped him. But then he shoved Ospreay out of the way and dove out on Kyle, who apparently was going to try to jump him. And so I don't really know why that Kenny would be so ungrateful, but we didn't find out because as soon as he did the dive, the music hit, and here came Take a Shit. And he just got in the ring, and he and Kenny just started trading forearms and punches without selling them.
And it was a small ramp. It was kind of ridiculous to hit his music for the run-in.
Well, yes, it was fucking 50 feet from the curtain to the goddamn ropes. And so then Kyle gave Kenny the Snapdragon, the Begonia suplex, the Marigold suplex, whatever. And then Take a Shit, clothesline Kenny. I had to take notes. Take a Shit, clothesline Kenny, but Ospreay got back in and fought Kyle and Take. But they stopped him and then gave both guys brain busters next to each other. And then all the heels stood there and celebrated while nobody came to help either babyface or even referees coming out to wave their arms. They just did all that.
Well,
what'd you think?
I mean, I thought the match went too long. I'm not a Brian Cage fan. Every time I want to give the guy a chance, the match goes too long and I get to see too much, I guess. The fans love Omega. And I don't know if that meant they wanted to see him go back to a feud with Don Callis. You know, it's like MJF. When he came back, people didn't want to see him go back to the Adam Cole feud. When Adam Cole came back, they didn't want to see him go to the MJF feud. I don't think it's to that level. I think people were hoping that Omega, right out of the gate, would be used really strong on top. And, you know, right now they're going to do something with him and Ospreay, a frenemy kind of situation.
Why? But why were they arguing with each other or about?
Because they have a history. Because they have a history where they didn't.
Wait a minute! Fucking Ospreay didn't even get here until after Kenny was already out hurt last year.
Remember, Ospreay wrestled Kenny at the Tokyo Dome, I think.
Oh, Christ.
And I want to say, it's been a while and they do so much stupid shit. I want to say they did something with him in AEW. Remember, Ospreay was originally with Don Callis.
Well, yeah, but that was also after Kenny left, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe it was. I don't know. And obviously, Excalibur did not do a good job of explaining any of this.
Well, but besides that, they're worried about who was mad at who in Japan 7 years ago instead of what they might be able to put together to make anybody interested right now. And the last thing they need when they got two popular baby faces is to have either one of them arguing or teaming and splitting up to have a big dream match, which will inevitably cause somebody to pick one over the other. Then you're devaluing one of your fuckings, the Bruno Andre fucking principle. That's why they never had the match. Anyway, would you like to move on to...
I would like to move on.
To sunnier climates and happier times?
Well, happier times, sunnier climates, and of course, in these happy situations, everything's going good, you're feeling good, you may want to make a wager. You may want to take a chance and make a few bucks.
You may just be walking down the street, just snapping your fingers, wearing your zoot suit, spinning your watch around, thinking, wow, man, I got a lot of what it takes to get along.
Oh.
And you want to make some more. You don't want to go into a back alley and start throwing craps with somebody with 3 fingers that you're not really familiar with. You don't want to go to any unsavory people and put money on the numbers. You want to do this the legal, the moral, the ethical way, the way that's going to make you some money that you can spend in decent places and take home to your wife or your mother. We're talking about DraftKings Sportsbook. They are fine, upstanding people. You know that everybody at DraftKings Sportsbook, there is an FBI file on them. They've checked them out. As a matter of fact, many of them already had a file with the FBI. They were being proactive. And they check these people out to make sure that they can't play any hocus pocus with your money. When you go into the DraftKings Sportsbook virtual world of the app, you're not going to have anybody picking your pocket as you go in a door, Brian. You've obviously had your pocket picked before. I could think of one guy that picked both of our pockets at one point in time. And that's a horrible feeling.
Virtually.
Folks, scoring touchdowns is the key to winning in the playoffs because they're playing off now. You've heard of fighting off? Well, now they're playing off. And all over the NFL, they got playoffs. I guess that's it. Or is it time for basketball playoffs? The Harlem Globetrotters are here this week. Can you take bets on the Harlem Globetrotters?
You cannot. We are on the road to the Super Bowl. Are the Harlem Globetrotters really in Louisville this week?
They certainly are. They had a Globetrotter spinning the ball while walking through the snow on the news the other day. Or I believe it might have been today.
I recently saw the Harlem Wizards, who were kind of like the Globetrotters. Who were kind of like the Globetrotters of old, and they tour the various areas and facilities.
Well, so they're basically doing a fucking Wendy's hamburgers, Judy's hamburgers, Frisch's Big Boy, Jerry's J-Boy type of thing, some kind of infringement.
I don't know. You never really hear about the Globetrotters anymore. You used to know them by name. Now I can't name a single one.
Well, that's because Metal Arc Lemon retired. But I'll tell you, folks, they know your name at DraftKings, especially if they've got you on file, and then, boy, you better be paid up. But I'll tell you what, right now, if you go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, you can bet on touchdowns. See, let's say one of the teams scores a touchdown. If you bet they're going to do that, well, you're going to win money. And it's football. What do you think they're going to do? Make goddamn 3-point shots? And if you're ready to place your first bet, you can try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. You don't want to bet on a football player to score 4, understand, although if they manage to do it, then the odds would be high and in your favor. You'd make a fortune. But it's a way to get rich quick with no downside whatsoever by now going to DraftKings Sportsbook, downloading the app, and new customers of the fine folks at DraftKings can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly if all they do is use the code JCE. JCE, just the mention of my show's initials, ladies and gentlemen, are going to get you $200 from these people just like. Now, don't think you can take it and just frivolously spend it on women in the same back alley that you used to gamble in. It's $200 in bonus bets with DraftKings, but they're going to give it to you just like that. That's why it's a bonus. Boom. My bonus finger is working. See that bonus finger, Brian? Right now, only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. But Brian, is that audio from our friend come in yet?
Oh, he's been so busy working on so many things that he has not. We have nothing, no.
Well, in closing, I'd like to tell everyone, gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance of them. Same things. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio and video kill the radio star.